Thank you very much. First and foremost, we need to acknowledge that we have won here before and we can win again. We have deep roots here. As you can see, we have a packed room of New Democrats. And might I also mention many young New Democrats, which shows the vibrancy of our party here. So we have a lot to be hopeful for. I mean, we were dealt a crushing blow, though, and so we need to acknowledge that. So some of the things that I believe in. I'm a growth candidate. I believe in growing the party, and I will do that by signing up new members across this country. We also need to fundraise. To win an election, you need to be well-funded, and so I will work hard and diligently on making sure we're well-funded. But we also need to have a vision that provides people with a sense of what a new democratic government would look like. And that's why we've been releasing policy plans like the Better Work Agenda, talking about how we can ensure better work in this country with minimum wage standards, with labor standards, with banning of unpaid internships, and also a support system like the income security, the income guarantee that I talked about.
Thank you. We'll move now to Nikki Ashton, please.
Well, I can say that definitely as a member of the Federal Caucus for almost 10 years, I and I know many of us missed greatly the work of so many incredible MPs from Newfoundland, from Nova Scotia, who fought for their constituencies and who fought for people across the Atlantic. We need them back. We need to elect new Democrats in this part of the country. And the way we're going to do it is by putting forward a principled, bold vision that reflects the issues, the challenges that people here in the Atlantic face, challenges like good inequality, challenges like the need for good jobs, challenges like climate change. We also need to organize, and I just came from Nova Scotia where we saw a great win from Gary Brill and the Nova Scotia NDP team, and I want to give them a shout out. There's incredible energy there. There's incredible energy here and in New Brunswick, and I know in PEI, we need to work with activists, with social movements, with labor to rebuild here in the Atlantic, and ultimately in 2019 to elect NDP MPs that will fight for you.
Thank you. We'll move now to Guy Cao.
Thank you. One key to this will actually to have a better integration of what we do at the federal level with provincial parties. We don't speak to each other. We do when we come here. Acknowledge presence of Harold McCready here and Jerry Rogers as well. And when we have a chance to see each other, we do it. But we don't do it in a systematic fashion. Before like in the last century, basically under Ed Broadbent and after, we actually used to meet in multilateral meetings where we could actually discuss as a new democratic family, those issues in a room. We were meeting frequently to actually find out what we have in common and how we can actually work together. So that will be key here in Atlantic Canada, as it will be for the rest of the country. Another element is that Trudeau will actually have a record this time to defend. When he's openly musing, or his government is openly musing things like maybe Atlantic Canada will not have its reserved seat anymore at the Supreme Court, those are things that will come back to haunt them in the next election.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from Charlie Angus.
Well, when you hear the deafening silence of the Atlantic Caucus of the Liberal Party, who have not spoken up on any of the issues, you know the work that needs to be done. When before we had Yvonne Gaudin and Jack Harris and Megan Leslie and Robert Chisholm, Peter Stauffer, we can look at what the Liberals are doing and they're doing nothing for the region. So that's number one. We're going to have a record to go up against. Number two, we got to rebuild a grassroots network. It's become so centralized. I mean, when was the last time anybody from the party wrote to you and asked you what you thought or what your priorities were, as opposed to saying, hey, we're checking our records and you owe us money? That is so disrespectful. So we have to rebuild that grassroots relationship. And number three, and I learned this from Jack, and Jack talked me into running, not Jack Harris, he could have talked me into running too, but Jack Layton. You got a leader on the ground, and I'll be here because I've been here, and I'll continue that.
Thank you. Now we're going to move to Peter Julian, please.
I've been an Atlantic Canadian organizer for the NDP. And I've been on the ground, and both before and after the big first Orange Wave in 1997 was active. And the solutions are solutions that require a lot of hard work, but we can do that. We can do this. And we start with trusting the membership. Stop with just sending the fundraising emails and start with actually getting that wisdom and the strength that is in our membership right across Atlantic Canada. It then continues with broadening our base and going out and seeking those thousands of new leaders that we need from social movements, the labor movement, and the environmental movement. And young Canadians are active in the environmental movement. And it's using the new technologies. 25 years ago, I worked for an obscure man who was running for Congress in the US. He became well known about 25 years later. His name is Bernie Sanders. Bernie was always bold, but he always used new technologies. We've got to do the same.